one of the reasons why the right is not so keen on the whole equality argument is the unmeasurability of the factors we're talking about.
Totally.
I mean, by the way, I think there's lots of things in our society at the moment which fall in where we have the same unknowability problem. One that is very much on my mind at the moment is mental illness, which is on everybody's minds, and which it seems to me suffers from some problem in this area where we have compassion for anybody with mental illness, quite rightly. It exists, we know, but we also don't know where the boundaries are, for instance, of people who simply claim an element of it in order to gain something else. There is no knowing mechanism in society. There are doctors I speak to who say, we can tell when there are people who are after a diagnosis of something that will help them. I mean this, of course, in a cynical, helping them. Doctors tell me, there are certain things people would quite like to be diagnosed with that are actually, if you did have them, you would not want to have them.
For example?
Bipolar. I mean, the number of people who appear to be almost proud of or seeking of a diagnosis of being bipolar because they see there as being certain gains to be made from it. Nobody with bipolar problems would want it.
Yeah.
But you can tell something is up. And again, doctor friends I speak to say it's because there are things that clearly people don't want to. Nobody wants to go out on a date with somebody and boast that they're a schizophrenic.
Right. I've noticed this same thing, that there are certain conditions that people that apparently carry no stigma. And
in fact, the opposite in a way.
Right. A kind
Not
of
always,
currency.
but in certain situations. And by the way, I want to stress again, none of this is by any means to condemn or criticize people who actually do have, serious conditions which seriously affect their lives. But we all know that there are people who do want to, we see them and we experience it, particularly when people are growing up, that they want to have certain things in order to single them out and make them special and give them better treatment, to be given certain leeway by society. We don't have mechanisms in place to deal with this. And for something which, for instance, the British government a couple of years ago said they wanted to treat mental illness with the same dedication as physical illness. If you haven't worked out what the boundaries are of mental illness in your society, you've just allowed a massive problem to erupt because there's no delineation of borders.
Right. You create a certain amount of
ambiguity between people who are genuinely suffering and people who would like to suffer because they'd like the things that they believe accrue to people who've suffered.
Yeah, it's psychological Munchausen's or something.
Right. And I mean, all of these things do come together. I think I joked to you when we were having dinner with Heather last night that I had wondered on arriving in Portland whether or not the water was safe to drink. There does appear to be something in it that causes the growing of pink hair, the masculinization of women and the feminization of men.
Yes, it's causing me to go gray.
You got the best. You got the best imaginable.
Yeah,
fate from that. But I mean, you do wonder when a society has as many deranged people in it, and as many people who believe that they're involved in some weird gender boundary, mellifluous transgression, and much more. I mean, again, to an outsider, this stuff is obvious here. You have an awful lot of people who, I mean, again, roaming the streets who clearly should be in places where they're being looked after for mental problems. Clearly, you've got a problem with that. And you have a lot of people who are clearly operating in society who have a range of less severe but low-level mental disorders.
Yep.
Who believe that they are... and again, this isn't to say that trans doesn't exist, as I say in Manners of Crowds. Clearly something is going on here. We just know almost nothing about it. But we also have people who are pretending that they're trans in order to gain attention and win the hierarchy game of the era, because weirdly, they think that in the intersectional Olympics, to be gender fluid is something that will make you win or give you the megaphone that evening. And all of these things are going on simultaneously. And again, a conservative critique of that would be because you didn't set up any boundaries.
Oh,
You didn't chart any of this. It was not in your interests to be rigorous. It was not in your interests to pinpoint to people when they had personally screwed up. Nobody in the social system was willing to say, shut up, go and do your work. Nobody was willing to say, you failed because you deserve to fail because you're a reprehensible and selfish figure. Nobody was willing to do any of these things. And so you just have this, like, literally a girl the other night in a pink jumpsuit screaming at the police and hurling things, hoping to be arrested. She's like, we're there.
So I think we are in a position to converge here because, first of all, let's just say, I don't think it's in the water in any literal sense. I know you're speaking metaphorically.
I am speaking metaphorically. That's a good thing to clear up, just in case.
Well, let's put it this way. From my perspective, I think we've got the same puzzle across all of civilization, which is you have a huge number of people who are sick.
Yeah.
Psychologically, physically, socially, right? And you don't know why. And you're busy telling me that all of these things are safe. You don't know if they're safe. You know that they don't kill you outright if you ingest them, but you don't know that they're not long-term harmful. And so the point is we've got a lot of things causing pathology, and we don't know what they are, and that's a very dangerous situation, and it should start a very serious adult conversation about how you deal with things that cause pathology that you can't identify in a complex society where we keep inventing new stuff and releasing it assuming it's fine.